Hi, I'm Michelle Lee Bernstein, and I'm a knitting designer and teacher based in Portland, Oregon. You can find me as PDX Knitterati anywhere I'm on social media, including my blog, pdxknitterati.com. PDX is the Portland, Oregon airport code, and that's how I chose the name. I have a two-skein attention span, and so I mostly design accessories. I love using special techniques that make those accessories sing. My favorite techniques right now are brioche and assigned pulling, and you can see those in what I'm wearing right now. I love teaching people to be the boss of their knitting. One of my favorite classes to teach is called Tink Drop Frog, and it's all about how to fix mistakes. Why am I such an expert in fixing mistakes? Well, as a designer, I make a lot of them. I design by trial and error, and I try things out, and if I don't like them, I rip them out and I start again. So you can trust me when it comes to frogging. What is frogging? It's ripping. Rip it, rip it, rip it. That's frogging. You know how to do that, see? Okay, done. Thanks for coming to my talk. It's been great. Oh, wait, you want to know what happens next. Well, clearly you know how to rip. Everybody knows how to rip. But if you're ripping and you're not planning to rip all the way back to the beginning, how do you get it back on your needles? Do you just start trying to poke your needle in and then some of your stitches are on backwards and the yarn pulls out of the next stitch when you're trying to pick up a stitch? There is a better way, and I want to show you how. Let me show you how to know when it's time to frog, how to frog safely, how to get your knitting back on track. Let's get started. If I have a mistake in my knitting, how do I know when to tink, when to drop, when to frog? Do I immediately go to ripping? I don't think so. If I'm knitting along here and my mistake is within the last few stitches, I can tink, which is the word knit spelled backwards, so I can unknit my stitches, fix my mistake, and continue on my way. If there's a mistake, just one tiny mistake or maybe a split stitch, something you want to fix, and it's down a column and it's not too far away, you can come to that stitch on your needles, drop down and fix it. You pull the stitches out and then hook it back up with a crochet hook. That's dropping or laddering, and sometimes that's appropriate. When is it appropriate to frog? Well, if you've got a mistake several rows back, and say this is 100 stitches across, and I have messed up the entire row several rows back, you don't want to tink those stitches back one by one, hundreds and hundreds of stitches. So then I would opt to frog or rip it. How do I do that? I'm going to take it off my needles and I'm just going to start ripping. But the easiest way to control this and do it safely is to have a lifeline. If I'm working some kind of pattern stitch, and in this case it's a 10-row repeat, I have put a lifeline every 10 rows. So every time I finish a motif, I will put a lifeline in and then work the next one, put a lifeline in and then keep working. And you can see that after this last lifeline, I have done something not right, and that lifeline is going to help me get back to there. Let's look at this in a simpler way with some plain knitting. So here's my lifeline, and in stockinette you probably don't need a lifeline, but it's easier for you to see here. So the lifeline is like a pretend knitting needle that is holding my place, and that is where I know that the last time my knitting was all good, especially if I'm working some kind of lace repeat. How do you put in a lifeline? I'm going to show you right now. To put in a lifeline, I'm going to take a piece of that lifeline yarn, and it needs to be wider than the piece of knitting that I want to put it in, and I'm just going to run it through all of the stitches that I have on the needle. If you're working on a circular needle, this is even easier because you can slide your stitches down to the cable and it's easier to get your needle in where you want it. But I'm demonstrating on double points so that you don't have the circular cable clanking on the desk as I demonstrate things for you. All right, so I'm just going into each one of these stitches. It's much easier when you're not looking through the camera, so this will be easier for you. we go. Come on. Trying not to split the stitches. And give that a tug out. And there is my lifeline. When you're putting your lifeline in, you want to make sure that you're not putting it through your stitch markers if you're using stitch markers, because your stitch markers will then be stuck on that row and they won't be able to move up as you continue to knit. Also, when you start knitting, you want to knit just your stitches. You don't want to knit your lifeline in because then it'll be in the wrong place. So your lifeline is the pretend knitting needle that shows you where you were when you put it in. And so see how I'm working above and it'll just drop down? Okay, so I'm going to take that out and I can show you what happens if you didn't put in a lifeline and then suddenly you feel like you needed one. Can you put one in after the fact? And yes, you can. Let me get another piece of yarn here. So when you look at the lifeline, it is sitting in your knitting the same way that your needle does. And in conventional knitting, the right leg of your stitch is on the front of the needle. Some of you might knit with the left leg on the front of the needle, so just adjust accordingly. But in this case, it's under the right leg. And so if I wanted to put in an after the fact lifeline, I would start at the edge, but I'm just going to start here. I'm looking for my knit stitches, and you know a knit stitch looks like a V. So I've got a column of V's. I want to go under the right leg of each one of those V's. Right leg, right leg, right leg, and then I would end up with a lifeline that looks just like that. But you're not always going to be working in stockinette. If you're working in a knit purl pattern or if you're working in a lace pattern, if you want to use lifelines, it's much better to put them in up at the needle. Okay, what if, I'm going to take this one out. Well, let's rip down to a lifeline. So this lifeline is holding my space, and say there is a split, a whole bunch of, not a split stitch because I would drop for that. Say there's something horrible going on in an entire row. I purled an entire row or something. I'm going to take my needle out. That's where everybody is welcome to scream, ah, and start ripping. This is the easy part, as we acknowledged before. So now I'm coming down to where the lifeline is. See, I'm still above it. And now, when I'm down to this row, I can see that I am back to where I was before. And I'm going to take my needle to put it back on, and I'm just going to trace where that lifeline is. And I like control so much that I'm going to pull these out one at a time and put it back on my needle, or you could pull out the whole row, and that means really just kind of arguing with it a little bit more. I'll show you. So then you could poke like this. For me, it's a little more fiddly because I end up stabbing the lifeline. So either way, as long as you get your stitches back on the needle, and you'll notice I'm going front to back and just pulling it out. And if I go in front to back, the right leg of that stitch is going to be on the front of the needle, and my stitches will not be twisted. So continuing. So really, I'm tinking this last row, but there's a lifeline there to make sure that everything is fine. Now that I'm back to my lifeline, am I going to take it out? No, because I'm still going to continue to work, and so I still need that lifeline, and then I'm going to continue knitting up. So that's where a lifeline can be really, really helpful in getting you back on track. Well, what if you don't have a lifeline? I'm going to pull that one out. If I were tinking and I didn't have a lifeline, if I were frogging without a lifeline, I could do that. And so I would rip down to about where I want to be, and I'm going to, again, very slowly put my stitches back on. And I think what I'm going to do in this case, because I just showed you how to do it on the knit side, I'm going to do it on the purl side. Take this out, take a needle, and here we are at the beginning or end of the row, There's the stitch. I'm not going to care too much which way it's facing right now. I can fix it if it's wrong later, but I just want to get started and I don't want to lose that. So now I'm going to, again, undo these stitches one at a time. While I am pulling the yarn out. I'm tinking. There's just no lifeline to make sure that I'm okay. And that's okay. Remember, we talked about what happens if you just start stabbing at your stitches. Sometimes you put them on backwards. And if you do, that's okay, because you can fix them. Or what if the yarn pulls out of your stitch? Then I would catch the yarn and the stitch, and I would fix that later, because if I try to fix it now, it's going to pull out of this one here. This one might be backwards. I don't care. I can fix it when I come back. Here we go. Still tinking, tinking, tinking. There's one stitch left. And sometimes it's hard to tell which way it's supposed to face, so I'll take that last one out completely so it's not attached at all. And there is the end of the previous row. And if you really want to know how to get it back on right, if you tug on this yarn in between, it's connecting this stitch to the knitting, and this is the right leg of the stitch, the one that moves when you tug that. So this is the right place. Now I'm going to rework that last stitch. Okay, I'm back on the needles, and remember I had a couple of little issues. So let's go back over here. I'm going to start purling this. And we'll fix our little things. Are you right? You're right. You're on the right way. Nobody's twisted yet. Oh, this one is backwards, because if I go in here, it's not feeling right. Right leg on the front of the needle, so I'm going to put it here. What is that? Is that there? Oh, that belongs there. Okay. And here's the one that got undone, so I'm just going to pull it back through purlwise, so the purl bump falls here, and now I'm good. So that is how you get back on without a lifeline. I'm going to look at one other thing. If you have a lace pattern or some other pattern and you need to frog, and you don't have a lifeline, you're going to do the same kind of ripping, but I like to pick back up on a purl row. So I'm going to tink the purl row to get it back on. And the reason why, because this is a pattern with knit two togethers and slip knits and yarn overs on the knit side, and on the purl side it's just purl. It's easier to get back on a plain row, because then you don't have to undo knit two togethers and slip knits. So I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to go below this egregious mistake here. So let's just get going. And once I've undone this mistake, let's see, is that where it is? Yep, looks like it. Okay, so now I'm going to get back on the purl side. Here's the first stitch. And again, I'm just picking up my purls. I'm tinking my purls. I don't have to undo any knit two togethers. There will be a yarn over. There it is right there. That's a stitch from the previous row. Undoing this. Oh, come on. Gotcha. Gotcha. Here's the other yarn over. So again, it's pretty controlled, and this is the way to get your knitting back on track without dropping any of them or losing any of them or having them twist even. But if they do twist, you can fix it. Let's see if I can get this one without undoing the last one. I think so. So my mistake is gone. And I'm ready to re-purl that row and be back on track. That's it. That's fearless frogging. Do you think you can do it? I think you can. You can give that a try. And let's talk about what happens if you want to frog an entire project. The cowl that I'm wearing, Scattered Petals, is the result of me frogging an entire finished piece and starting over because I didn't like the size. So I hadn't blocked the piece yet. The yarn wasn't super curly, and so I just knit with it again the way it was. But what if you've already blocked your project and you want to rip it out? You can do that too. Check this out. These are my first attempts at combining assigned pooling and brioche. The cowl on the left is pretty good, but you really can't see the assigned pooling. The cowl is nice anyway. The cowl on the right, it's just a hot mess. I can't see the assigned pooling, and that's the whole point of it. So I frogged that entire cowl, the one on the right. Look how kinky that yarn is. I wound it on my Nitty Knotty. You could also do this on your Umbrella Swift, and made it into a loop skein, which I tied off. Just like when you buy it, you see where the ties are. And then I soaked it. Then I let it dry, and you can see how nice and smooth the yarn is in the picture on the right. Ready to knit. I designed the peekaboo cowl, and I love it. You can see the brioche and the assigned pooling, and the bonus is that the assigned pooling motif looks different on each side. This is a successful reuse of an entirely frogged project. Remember, you're the boss of your knitting, and you get to decide what happens to your yarn. If you don't like what you made, you can make something else. It's okay. I would love to share a little thing with you. If you sign up for my newsletter, I will send you a recipe pattern for a shawl, and you can use any yarn, any needles. You can make it whatever size you want. It's an asymmetric triangle knit on the bias. Some people call it a boomerang shawl. So you'll get the shaping instructions and some ideas on how you can use it, and you get that free when you sign up for my newsletter. If you don't like my newsletter, you're welcome to unsubscribe. My feelings won't be hurt much, but it only comes out once or twice a month, and newsletter subscribers get 25% off any new pattern releases. So I hope you'll stay, but go ahead and give it a try. You can sign up using my QR code. I'm going to show it to you, or you can just go to my blog, pdxknitterati.com, and there's instructions how to sign up for my newsletter from there too. Thanks so much for listening to me go on about frogging. I hope you give it a try. You can try it a little bit or a lot. If you're a little nervous, try it on a swatch, but please sign up for my newsletter. It's been fun hanging out with you. Thanks so much. Simply Stellar is an example of a boomerang shawl. And here's the QR code to sign up for my newsletter. Thanks so much.